Good morning, everyone, and welcome to.
Good morning.
Good morning. I'm going to wait a couple of minutes so everyone has a chance to join. Hello, Linus.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, Linus.
Good morning. Who is that? I recognize the voice.
This is quite a nice gathering of at least many people you and I worked with in the past, Linus, which is nice. Tim from Nairobi Convention, do you know if more people are joining from you guys?
I'm not sure who has joined, Gustav.
Okay.
Can you see anybody else from the Secretariat? Otherwise, I think we should get going.
Yeah.
From our side, they can join as they are ready.
Great. Yeah, so while we have you on the line, Tim, I can just mention that thank you to the Nairobi Convention for helping reach you all and invite to this webinar about the Ocean Data Platform, which we have geared towards what we think will be useful in the context of the Marine Spatial Planners in the Y region. And very excited to have you all here, actually. So what we're gonna do today, we're gonna give you a demo of the Ocean Data Platform, and then we're gonna do also a little case how we can collaborate on ocean data in the cloud. And for those who was working with me in a couple of years back when I was with the Swedish agency, with the Swedish government, we did all of this work to put together data for ecosystem-based marine spatial planning, and I thought a bit about how that could be done as well with the help of the Ocean Data Platform. So that will be part of the demo today. And with me, I got Tom Red, our Ocean Governance Manager, who will play the collaborator in this work today. Maybe you can say hi, Tom.
Hey, good morning, everybody, and great to see so many people joining the call and looking forward to hearing any questions. And there are several of us in the chat, so if you have any questions that Gustav doesn't manage to answer as he's presenting, feel free to just put them in the chat and introduce yourself if you'd like to.
And Tom, perhaps you can also put the link to the platform and to reach the catalog, so those who want to can sign up if you haven't already and play around a bit yourself in the next hour. Okay, so who are we? We're a non-profit sprung out of Norway, but with a global scope. We're working to make ocean data available for everyone on a cloud-based geospatial data platform. We work and we are here to support all science and work in the ocean data space. We have a protect and restore agenda, so we are aiming our effort to protect and restore the ocean. We are working also closely with our sister organization Rev Ocean, who are building and have built a one-of-a-kind research vessel that will start doing deep sea work and operating around the globe from 2027. So in the center of all we do, we have built the Ocean Data Platform. It's a place where you can reach our public catalog that consists of both already available data sets and also some new data that we make available in a convenient place where you can access it in the same way. And we've spent a lot of effort in making this catalog also very efficient and fair, so that it's interoperable and working with other technologies. And it's also a place where you can have your own data using the same technologies. So you can have private data and you can decide who can access it, and you can mix it with the data in the catalog and with other sources. And when the data sits on the platform, you can access it from many different places. So you can use it to power websites and apps, and you can also work with the data from a variety of different places. So we have our own workspaces that we support, where you can do compute and analysis. That's what I'm going to show today as well. But you can also access the platform and work with it from other places like Google Colab. And we also have integration to GIS. So you can be working in your local environment in your own, for example, QGIS, and stream the data in there. We are also quite dedicated to getting the industry to contribute with more data. So we have some great success stories of that already on the platform. I believe Tom will show us in a bit one of those data sets. For example, Aker BioMarine, which is part of the industry group that is supporting us. They shared 15 years of fisheries acoustic data in the Antarctica that has been used to do the kind of science that you can't do from a research vessel, because they are there every day, every season. So that data is actually available on the platform. It's a huge amount of data. We have got other companies, for example, the Ocean Pact, to share biodiversity observations, where we have then also helped to get those Excel spreadsheets into a standardized form and pushed to the global repositories. We have an ongoing good little case with Basurito Marine Science Center in Mozambique to help them get their marine data from their station out also on the platform. So that's a work in progress. And next week we're gonna show a new map of seabed substrates globally that we're collaborating on with DB Seabed. Actually, the same organization that helped White Symphony get the seabed substrates in place. Okay, so the main components of what we will guide you through today is how you find data, how you can explore data on the platform, how you can create your own collection and collaborate on it, and upload data to it, how you can do then data analysis in a collaborative way. We're going to look a little bit into how you can also integrate this data into your local GIS should you want to work there. There is two main things here to note. The way the QR code there, you can go on your phone if you want to on the side. If you go into the app Hub Ocean Earth, you can create your own account and follow along. We also have a little demo resource page there. I will show you that has sort of the main items of the platform on the web page, so you can go through it yourself. Actually, I think we're gonna stop there. And Tom, if you start sharing, can you give us a little tour of the catalog?
Well, I was thinking, Gustav first. Timothy in the chat also suggested that he could say a few words of welcome and introduction from the Nairobi Convention. Maybe this would be a good opportunity to do that.
Yeah, Perfect. Over to you, Tim, sorry.
Thank you, Gustav, and thanks, Tom. Yeah, I think that before we dive into the details of the Ocean Data Platform, maybe it would be good to just acknowledge the kind of relationship between Hub Ocean and the Nairobi Convention, and as well as WIOMSA, who are all interested in the subject that is going to be talked about today. And really, thanks to Hub Ocean for this initiative. It really is an opportunity to enhance data and information management and use in the region, in the Wai'a region. And this webinar really follows on from a long history of support from our Swedish partners. Various organizations such as SWAM have also assisted with MSP-related work in the past. And we see this as a natural expansion of those discussions that we've had. And indeed, the stakeholders and the participants today, I guess, reflect some of those that have been involved in the past as well, either through the development of the Wai'a Symphony tool, and also as experts during the process of developing the information management strategy under the convention that was carried out a few years ago. And I think that people on that expert group were included in the invite list of this. So it's all connected, and I just wanted to just emphasize that this subject has been the basis of discussion between us and Hub Ocean. So it fits into the overall Nairobi Convention area of interest and what we wish to promote and support. So Hub Ocean most welcome to come and explain these new and innovative ideas to us in the Wai'a region. So we're looking forward to getting feedback also from the participants, and then some ideas of the possibilities of future engagements around this subject from Gustav and his team. So welcome again, and thanks very much for making the time to participate. Over to you again, Gustav. Thank you.
Thank you very much for those words, Tim. Yeah, I'm very much looking forward to the discussions. I think we will go through the demo so you have a feel for what we have built, and then we will reflect a bit when we come out of that. So maybe first over to you, Tom, and then I will make a little pass over to what we to the actual case study that we will do after that. But yeah.
Thanks, Gustav, and hello again, everybody. So I'm just going to start by showing a few things about the Ocean Data Platform in practice, what we built it for, but equally, we're really happy to hear feedback and ideas from everybody on the call of how you would maybe want to use it, or some ideas that you might have, or questions. So feel free to put them in the chat as we present throughout the day, and then there'll be a little bit more time towards the end where Gustav's going to open up for a more open conversation. So I will hopefully just give some ideas. I'm not going to go into too much detail, and I need to find the screen to share. If you just give me a minute. Here we go. So when you first go to the Ocean Data Platform, in fact, I'm going to log out because I'm logged in at the moment. When you first go to Ocean Data Platform, you will be greeted with a screen like this, and just give it a second to open. So you can see here that you have access to a catalog, which is where you can find public data on the platform. What you don't have access to is a place for you to upload your own data, and you don't have access to a compute environment, a workspace environment. So if you want to have access to both of those things, and especially the ability to share and collaborate with your own data, then you need to create an account, and it's free and easy to do. You just click on this create an account link, you fill in your email address, a few other details, and register there, and you'll instantly have access. And if you'd like to do that now, you're very welcome to do that. Since I have an account already, fortunately, I will just log back into the platform and show how to work with some of the aspects of the platform. So I'm going to focus right now just on finding public data in the platform and some of the features that you can do using the interactive tools that we have. So if you head over to the browse catalog here, you'll be greeted with a list of data sets and data collections, and collections are collections of data sets. What you can then do is you can search in the toolbar. You can also search on the map using just a tooltip there. I won't do that right now, but the main way of finding data is using the toolbar. And we have many different types of ocean data in the platform. So if you search for mangroves, you'll find that you'll have some mangrove data from different parts of the world or global data sets. If you were to search for temperature, you'll find there are some data sets that have temperature related data. And today we're going to be focusing on sort of some relevant data sets for the wire region. So I'll come on to that in a little bit. I just wanted to show actually just an example of one of the data sets that Gustav presented in his initial presentation, which was some work that we've done working with an industrial partner to share data on the platform. So I just wanted to show the different types of data that can be shared and stored on the Ocean Data Platform. So in this case, we worked with an industrial company to share 10 years or more of echo sounder location from their fishing operations. And so as you can see, all of this data is stored in the raw format that they sent it to us. You can download that data if you're interested in working and analyzing it. And we actually do have researchers who have been working with this data and analyzing it on the platform. But you can also get, if you just click on one of those, you can also just see some metadata about, for example, where that ship has been. So you get an indication of the type of data and what you will get if you were to work with these files. I'm just going to come back out of that. That was just a sort of an example I wanted to show of the kinds of metadata associated with data. And now another sort of quite interesting data set that I'm like to work with is marine protected area data, as it sort of forms the basis of a lot of analysis that people might want to do, especially in the context of marine spatial planning, things like this. And you can see here that we have many different sources of marine protected area data. So you may be familiar with WDPA, which we source from eModNet Human Activities. We have several other ones, and the one that I'm going to focus on is not at the top of my list here. It's from an organization called Protected Seas. So I'm going to find that one. And you can see here that we have a data collection which contains two data sets. Protected Seas as an NGO that collects and aggregates information on marine protected areas all over the world. They actually go into national legislation and local legislation to pull out specific details about protected areas. So what you'll find is this is an incredibly rich data source that would complement something like the WDPA, which is quite a very authoritative data set. But it may not contain as many parameters, whereas Protected Seas complements it by giving additional aspects of data about marine protected areas. And I'll just go into this focus data set that we've curated with Protected Seas. And this is a data set that only shows area-based protections. And so you can see here, all data sets on the platform have a lot of metadata related to them. So they'll contain an overview. In this case, that we've made a few refinements to the data set, and we describe exactly what we've done so that you have an idea of what this data actually is. There's also a citation if you wanted to use this data in a publication or in an application, and of course you would like to cite it. You will also see that there is links to documentation from the original source, so you can track back and you can understand how this data set was developed, and actually you can go and visit the original Protected Seas Navigator map to see how they present the data, which is in a really nice visual format for creating easily creating reports on country profiles. You also see that there's the license, the provider, and in this case that this is a subset of another data set. What you'll also see on the right-hand side here is that this data set has and all data sets on the Ocean Data Platform have a unique identifier. So if you're working programmatically with the data, and Gustav's going to show you a little bit more of that later, then you need to use this unique identifier. You'll also see here a coverage, and in this case, it's a global data set, so the entire globe is covered. But if it was a regional or a local data set, then this would be a much more refined snapshot of where the data is. It just gives you an indication of like what you're going to expect when you start working with that data. And so in this case, we have a table, which is a way that we present a lot of data on the Ocean Data Platform, because we try and make this data analysis ready. And I'll show you what I mean by that in a few minutes. But just to explain a few things about this data set in particular, you can see that there are around 20,000 rows of data. So in this case, that's 20,000 marine protected areas or other area-based protections. You can also see that there are 87 columns, and I'm not going to go through all of the columns in this case because that's a lot. All I would highlight is that there are a few interesting ones. For example, you get a unique site ID for each area. You get the site name, the country. You also get the shape of that marine protected area. So if you wanted to see exactly what it looks like on a map, you also have that data in there. And then, as I say, many other things: managing authority, the WDPA ID, the IUCN category, and many things. I won't go into all of this now. I would encourage you, if you're interested in marine protected area data, to explore this in your own time. There are a few columns that I would just point out that I think are particularly relevant. Year established is always is great. This level of fishing protection is also very interesting from being able to understand the level of protection that each MPA gives, especially related to fishing. So this just gives you a sense of, is this an area that is of high protection, or is it maybe more low protection? And you can see here that we calculate statistics across the entire data set to give the range of how many marine protected areas are high, 20%, which maybe we would like some more. But we can also see that there are many data sets, around 46%, which are in the low range of protection. So we would, over time, like to see this progress towards the right-hand side. And because this is a live data set that we keep updated, hopefully we will see this shift in time. But it means that you always have access to the latest version of the data. The statistics also gives you a bit of confidence in the data quality. So for example, in this case, we see that there are 100% of the rows have this value, which is good. And some of those, for various different reasons, you may have less data, but it just gives you a sense. So if you want to work with this data set, you could download the whole thing. I wouldn't encourage it, especially if you are working on it on a laptop. It's a very big data set, especially the geometry columns are very complex. So it tends to, unless you have a pretty powerful computer, it tends to slow things down. What I like to do is click on this explore table, and then you can actually go in and you can start working with the data itself and start to do some querying and filtering. So what I might do here is, just as an example, we might just choose Kenya as the example country, and here we can see that there are 8 marine protected areas, and actually now this is a much smaller, manageable subset of the data, so you could also export that to a CSV or a GeoJSON, and that would be a much easier data set to work with. You could also combine these filters so that if you were interested in, let's say, only the state of Mombasa, then you could filter also by Mombasa. You could also, if you would like to do geometry queries, you could also do that. And so actually later on today, I'll have to reset my filters here, but we're going to be doing some study sites in and around the Comoros Islands. So maybe I'll just show how you would do that in this context. So you'd click on the geometry column, you'd zoom into your area of interest, and then you would just create a box around the study site. You could just click refine location, apply filters, and then you would get all of the data sets that are in and around that area. So you can see here that there are several countries, but we get the whole thing, and that's quite nice. Another thing that I could show later is the ability to view all of this on a big map. And at the moment, that's not something that we it's a little bit in a test phase. So you can see here that I'm going to do a bit of a trick to show how that works. This is the data set exposed via a vector tile API. So here you can see we're loading the whole data set we're loading it as we sort of zoom into different regions, and this is a nice way of displaying data on a big map, and of course then getting all of that information about the data on the right hand side here as you click into it. I think what I will do now is hand back over to Gustav to talk a little bit about the use case and the examples that he wanted to show as part of this webinar. So if you have any questions about this, then please feel free to ask, and I'll hand back over to Gustav.
Thank you, Tom, for that demo. I'm sure we'll get lots of questions too, and we will repeat a bit in the next half hour. So what I just, for the sake of the discussion, before we get into the details again, I just wanted to reflect a tiny bit of the work that I was involved in together with Linus and others on this call. Let's see if I managed to share the right thing. Yeah, so when we did that work, that's still the Nairobi Convention is still hosting and still ongoing, but led with SWAM and by Nairobi Convention, but the Biosymphony example, to put together lots of data for MSP to do scenario-based impact assessment of the planning. To be able to do that nice, slick app, there was a lot of data management going on. And we had lots of workshops together to think about what data that goes into it. It's just about everything you can think of, but organized well for the MSP. And this is a view from how the data was flowing into the actual layers of ecosystems and pressures that was done for Biosymphony project. So there was a lot of data coming in, and there was a big effort. I would say that project did a really good job with data management, with the available resources. Everything was tracked on GitHub. There was a way to organize the data quite nicely and to collaborate. And I think that's a huge gift actually for the next round, that this will be updated. And an example that I really liked was when we had some workshops. This was from Mombasa, and we brought together some local data from an Excel spreadsheet, essentially together with the global data sets from OBIS that has huge amount of biodiversity observations, actually something like 160 million rows of data that we're currently working on to get on the platform for even easier access. And with that work, then I think it was the Swedish SLU Aqua, they did the modeling, and there was a new updated model of sharks, for example, in this case. A very nice example of how sort of global and local data can be used together. And this is the layout of the Biosymphony sort of structure of how the data was organized.
Gustav, did we lose you? I think we did.
Lose me, Tom? No?
We did. We did for a second. I was just about to call up Linus to intervene.
Okay, I hope I didn't. Okay, anyway, I'll pull out of that. But anyway, this is sort of the basis of what I did. Why Symphony didn't do, I'll share, was to actually have a place where you could work on the data together and to share new data coming in. Now I'm gonna. So what we're gonna do on the little use case now is, let me just find the right window to share. Is we're gonna do a map together actually. So me and Tom are gonna put together a coral reef map in a collaborative way on the platform. So I will show you first how you will work on your own data set on the platform. So if you go to the My Data section, you can create data sets and you create collections. So I'm going to create as a new collection. Tom, is it working now in terms of, yeah, let's call it demo. Yeah, something like that, or just gonna call it that. Okay. So now we've created a collection, and I can give Tom access to this collection as well. So I will do that right away. You get to be an editor today, Tom. So Tom has already signed up to the platform. I need to know his email address. You can't search for anybody who's on there, but I've searched him before, so he's there. Now Tom can actually see this collection. It doesn't contain anything yet. It is just a placeholder. This collection also has an ID, but the real thing of the collection is the data set that we add. So Tom, and I want to get all the data that we can think of put in that map. We could put some tags in if we want. Okay, so now we have a placeholder of a data set. You see now the place where you manage the data. So you're now the admin. You're the only one who's in control of who gets to see this. Tom doesn't actually see it yet because I need to give him access also to the data set. I'm gonna be nice to you, Tom. You can have that right away. But I forget. And here you can populate now with a bunch of metadata if you want. You don't have to. If you want, I'll show you one more thing, by the way. Here you can also create a public link. That means that the data, if it's is open to anyone, but it's not searchable on the catalog yet. To make it searchable on the catalog, you have to request to publish the data. And what we will do then is just to ensure that there's a license in place and you have the rights to publish that data. So we might give you some feedback on just those core features that to ensure that the public catalog has enough information for people to understand the data that is in there. Okay, so this is great. We now have a data set. Tom, what I'm gonna do actually, I created some code and I will just drop that to you here as well, just because I can. So here you can put in any files that you want. Oh, I had something wrong with the name. Let's fix that. I'm not sure what that's going on. Okay. Some things you need to check before you demo something. I think there's something with the name. let's skip that part for now. Okay, so what we're going to do next, we're going to go and find some data first. So we go back to the catalog, and what I'm interested in, Tom already demoed this, but we're going to do a little case in the Mozambique channel, and we're going to see what coral data is here already. So I'm going to make a bounding box, and you can put in the exact coordinate if you want to here as well, that you want. And now we can search for coral. Now, we don't have every single coral reef data set on this planet on the catalog, but we do have some really nice ones. For example, Allen Coral Atlas is that huge data set that I'm sure many of you know. We used it in YS Symphony as well. It has, if you go down here, you can see that it actually has 40 million rows. So that's a huge amount of geospatial data, and every row has a geometry. But you can already here start seeing a little bit about the statistics. We can go into this data and make a crop if we want to. We can also see the underlying files that's in this data set. So you can actually download here also the source data if you don't want to consume it the way we have it on the platform. And there's a preview function. So in this case here, there's a report about that data, and you can read that here as well. You can do the same for pictures. So certain things you can already view here. I'm going to take a little easier one to demo because that one is so large. So I'm going to, there's another data set here. Actually, it's already in our search. So I'm going to use the other large global data set, which is...
So Gustav,
yeah.
So when you search now, does it mean that you only get results that are present within the box that you made around the Comoros?
Correct. So currently when you search, it looks for this footprint. And then because the footprint was covering our area, we find it. Okay. So if there was a small local data set here, we will find that, and we will not get the other small local data sets elsewhere. So here you can go and you can explore the table. This is the same as Tom showed you on the protected seas. There's a bunch of information already here. This is associated files, license text, and for example, there are even some images, I believe, here we can look at. So this is up to every data set what supporting information there should be. It doesn't have to have supporting information more than the metadata. But this one has been ingested to the tabular format of Ocean Data Platform, which means we can explore the table. And here we actually, we're going to be interested in the same region. We can do what Tom showed you before. We can add a little bounding box and actually download that data if we want to. So now we can apply that filter and we can look at that data in the platform. Here in this way now, you only see 100 rows at a time. But what Tom showed you is that there is a vector tiling, which means that we can see the whole data at different zoom levels, which is in our sort of beta mode, and I'm sure will be quite soon out also here in this view. And you can click on specific polygons and see them as well. So this is kind of a neat way to start exploring the data sets already. Now, what we're going to do today is actually to bring together many data sets into a new map. So that's going to require a bit of data science. And actually on Tuesday, last week when we did a little Wyomsa demo as well, we actually already went and put some new data in for Mayotte Island, which was nice. So we already started adding some data. And I know, Tom, before we get started, that there is a data set here that's not yet in the catalog. So I'm going to show you what that looks like. It's a data set it's actually in YS Symphony. It was from the African Marine Atlas, but it's not published anywhere. But I happened to to have that data, so we will use it today. We're going to call it do data sets. I'm sorry. So here you can actually now upload files. For that to you can upload any file, but for it to be spatial, you need to have it exported in a format that is compatible. You can do that programmatically, but you can also do it even in QGIS. Now, give me 1 second here. Okay, so I'm just going to disable what you can do also in QGIS is you can stream the data through OGC features. But I'm not going to demo that for you today. So what I've got this data set here from African Marine Atlas. That is a coral map that's not yet in the catalog. To be able to input that, this is just a local shape file. I need to actually export that file. So I can do that here. Let's see. And we input data in just VGS84. That's just a lat long format, for example, in CSV. And we're going to call it, let's see, we're going to give it a name.
I'm not sure we see what's happening, Gustav.
Sorry, I'm not sharing my screen. I'm just sharing the browser. Thank you, Linus. Let me do that. Sorry. Okay. Apologies for that. Okay, so we had a data set that was a shapefile that I want to upload to the platform. I had a look in my GIS and I want to upload it. So I've saved it now and I'm going to just upload it to the platform. I'm just going to keep the screen sharing. I think it's easier. So I'm opening that data. I'm hitting the upload button. And then we can ingest that file as a table. That means that this data is now in the supported format for the platform. And we can edit that table if we want to. So without coding, you can go in and make some edits about the information in the attributes. If you want to, you can add descriptions. In this case, I'm just making sure that we have the right geometry so the platform knows that the data has a spatial form. And now that will be accessible for us. And when it's working like that, the data is actually now in the platform, and we can make the same filters and we can work with this data. So that's quite nice. Okay, so now we have a data sitting in my data section, and we have some data in the catalog that we would like to combine into one map that we could use. So I'm going to shoot over to our workspaces. And you don't need to use our workspaces. You could use other workspaces. And actually, Tom will probably use his favorite workspace. But this one we support with compute. We can make more compute available for specific projects. We have something called JupyterJS Beta, and that's the one I'm going to pick today. It just means that we have an open source GIS also available in the workspaces. The workspaces are a Jupyter Lab environment that support both Python and R. And the way you communicate with the platform is actually, it used to be only with Python, but now we're also built in support for R for many of the spatial analysts that are using R for their work. Okay, so this is my workspace. You can, again, you can pick what kind of environment you want to start. I've already got a little bit of code here that I'm going to be working on today. So I know that this audience may not all be coders, but I'm just going to show you a little bit what it looks like. We're just connecting first to the platform programmatically. And I'm going to start also a little GIS document on the side. So this is going to be helping us to show some data. Now, this is the bounding box that we just created for the area of interest today. And so here that is. Since we have this bounding box, we can now query the data from our compute environment. So all I did was that WCMC data set, I copied the ID and I put it here, and I'm reading in that data. And then I'm going to make a little crop to the area of interest. So I'm only grabbing the data that I need. And then I'm going to print a little bit about statistics about the data, and I'm going to add it to our map. So now I'm actually downloading the data to my local environment. And I could do that because this data is not huge. So actually now we can see the map also here. This was just, it just grabbed the data from the platform and made a crop, and we put it on the map. So here you can see WCMC coral polygons, for example, around Madagascar. Now, the other data set that we looked at was Allen Coral Atlas. I am a little bit more careful because I know that this data is really large, actually. We already saw that on the platform. It has something like 40 million rows. So for the purpose of this demo, I'm going to ask Tom to help us with this data instead of me taking time with it now. We could have cropped this data and we could have done the same thing, but it would take a little bit more time. And we're pulling in lots of data into a local environment. And that could be tricky. Now, the data set that I just created, data set around Madagascar that we found, that is actually, it lacks kind of a bit of metadata, and it's nothing I would, at this moment, put on the catalog. I would need to know more about this data. But for the purpose of this demo, we can use it from the My Data space. It's a much smaller data set, and we put it on here. And we can actually see with and without that data, we've added some coral polygons. And I could even, I'm going to turn off my area of interest. I could even see here in the imagery that there seems to be a coral reef here that the WCMC isn't capturing, but that this data is capturing. So that already looks interesting. Okay. So what we're going to do now is using an advanced feature of the platform, and it actually on the server side, on the platform side, we can perform some operations without putting the data in our local environment. So we're going to use something called H3, which the platform has support for. H3 is a geospatial indexing. You can see here that it was actually developed by Uber originally, and it gives every place on this planet a little hexagon. And it's hierarchical, and you can, as you see, you can zoom in all the way down to a meter. So that has 15 levels, and it's standardized, which is quite nice if you want to do maybe a cumulative impact tool, or you want to do this kind of spatial planning where you aggregate lots of data together. And the nice thing, yeah, the hexagons are equal area for the whole planet, so they work everywhere. Let's go back to our little place. Okay, so we're now gonna aggregate the data actually on resolution 7 in this. It means that it's a fairly good planning unit It's about 10 square kilometers, but we could have done it higher resolution. So what the code here is telling you is that we are asking the platform to aggregate any polygons with coral reef in hexagons from the WCMC. If there is a coral reef within a hexagon, it will return a hexagon. And if there's nothing, it will return nothing. So we just created a number of cells here that had coral reefs in them. And we can do the same for the Allen Coral Atlas. So we have now two sources. We can combine them in one map. And we're going to convert those H3 indexes to a spatial polygon. And then we can actually put them on our map. So here you can see, I've just simplified the data a lot because this is really all we wanted to know. We wanted to locate, are there coral reefs within our planning unit, our hexagon? Great. So now I can actually push this data to ODP. To do that, let's see, I want to go back to our collection that we started. Let's see, where were we? YO demo MSP, good. And we had this data set. So I'm going to copy this one and I'm going to go here and I'm going to input this ID. So this is where we're going to push the data to. Tom, have you found that data, by the way, that I shared with you?
Yes,
Okay.
thank you, Gustav. I got it.
So you have this as well. Good. So now I'm going to push this data to the platform. I'm going to create a schema, essentially the name of the attributes that comes along with the hexagons. And it's complaining a bit, but that's fine, I think. Let's see, John. Oh. Let's hope this works. This was just working. This is the fun with live demos. What did we do wrong?
I think you've already run the Selga stuff. It looks like the error is that it's already running.
Oh, thank you for that, Tom. Okay, so we can even then see if this worked. We can plot the final map on also here. Okay, that looks good. Now, Tom, can you help me add the data from Allen Coral Atlas from your side?
Sure thing. Let me load up my I'm actually using the same environment as you, Gustav, in this case. Google kicked me out of my collab, so I'm fine. It's quite flexible. I can work anywhere. So I'm going to do a similar thing that Gustav did. He was using a GIS tool. I'm working purely in Python. So what I'm doing here is connecting to the Ocean Data Platform. I'm then defining my area of interest, which is the same as Gustav's area of interest. And in this case, I'm getting data from the Allen Coral Atlas within that box. And then what I'm going to do is once that's loaded, I will do the same calculations and aggregate that together. And again, that takes a little bit of a minute. And what I'm doing now is combining the data sets together, converting it in the same way that Gustav did into the H3 indexes, converting the H3 indexes to polygons so that he can make those nice kind of visualizations, and then push that data to ODP. So at the moment I was using, would you like me to use this one, Gustav, or this empty data set that you created?
Let's try that.
Yeah, okay. So you can see here that there's no data at the moment. I'll just make sure that this is the right one. And then we can share that data back to Ocean Data Platform. And if I then go back to my view here, you can see that that data got added. So we have the same kind of data here, and you can see that the hexagon appears on the map here, and that this is a source from Alan Coral Atlas. So Gustav is now able to combine and stack those layers together and to create a more comprehensive coral reef map for the area of interest.
Great. Actually, for the purpose of time, Tom, I think we will just move on. So what me and Tom showed you is essentially that on the platform, you can collaborate not only with sharing data, which is maybe the first thing you will do, access and share data with each other, but you can actually also collaborate directly on some fairly advanced data science in the platform, and you can help each other. You can update data sets, and then when they are there, you can also then consume them from many different places. So I think this is the feature we wanted to show you. So if we ref back to the work in the wire region, when you're doing cross collaborative work across organizations, cross countries, and you want to create some new data together, this is one place where that can happen. And it is also a place where you can have equal access to the environments where you do it in, because I think in the case that on the previous work that we were doing that I was doing in the wire region, we were dependent on some servers and computers sitting at different institutions directly. So this is one of the advantages with the cloud. Okay, what we're gonna do next, I've got a couple of survey questions to kickstart the discussions. And I'm wondering if we should do any questions first. No, let's do that. Okay, so we just have a couple of short questions for you before we get started on the discussion. Let's see. First, it's just a little bit of feedback of the webinar itself so far. So if you just describe the experience of this webinar, just to put in a couple of words, what we have done so far. And these ones stay live for the rest of this conversation. So if you can't think of anything, you can put it in a bit. They will stay there in the chat. And then see. And then I'm gonna do already. Sorry, Tom.
I was going to say, if anybody has any questions, you feel free to raise your hand or turn on your camera and ask, or equally ask them in the chat, and we're happy to take any questions.
Okay, and then we'll throw there's just a couple of questions. So which part of this webinar was most relevant to you? And you can pick a couple of options. So think about maybe what is actually the things you need the most as well. So the ocean data platform, how to find, how to explore data on that platform. You care more about your own data to manage and upload your own data and collaborate on it. Are you interested in collaborative data analysis using this kind of technology? Or is it more the visual aspects in your own GIS? Or sharing data back on the platform itself to make it publicly available? I'm gonna just keep launching these questions at you. So there's just 2 more left, and we're ready for the open discussion. Okay, so it's sort of on the same theme. If you can describe a challenge you have, for example, data sharing or something like that, where the ocean data platform could be helpful. And then we'll get a little bit of a map of what's on people's mind. Okay, I'm gonna throw the last question, and then I realize this is a bit fast, but again, they stay open, so you can fill them in during the next couple of half an hour as we're doing the final discussion. And then, yeah, so the final question here is, what kind of support would be most helpful for you to use this kind of technology? We are planning already a deepening webinar series, which means that we will go in much more detail onto the different functions that we give you a brief glimpse of today. Or do you want actual, handheld training sessions, courses of the kind where it's more interactive and you bring your own problems and we have a more deepening training? And then there's the option of online chats, always, of course, forums that we supply to get feedback and discuss anything, documentation and examples, or you actually don't actually need training. You're more into just using the tool and want it to be intuitive. Okay. Tom, am I missing anything main on this demo that I should have shown?
No, I think good stuff. I think that was great. I think what we tried to do is maybe just to summarize, and it's really interesting to see the sort of some of the responses to the survey about what people are finding most interesting. Finding data on the platform, it was one of the most highly ranked areas, and I think if we showed that at the very beginning, but if anyone has any questions about how to do that, then certainly happy to go into showing that more, and then also the visualizing data in GIS was also something that came up, and actually maybe I'll just make a quick would you mind if because that seems to be one of the areas of interest, maybe we didn't actually show how to connect Ocean Data Platform to a GIS software. So if you don't mind, maybe I'll just show that very quickly. Because if it's something that people are interested in, then you could already start to test it out. So if you're when you're on the main landing page of the platform, you'll see here at the top we have a documentation section. And here we document the different ways of working with Ocean Data Platform. So we started out by having a Python SDK, which allows you to do many different things if you're comfortable coding in Python. So you can download data, you can query data, you can run those aggregations that Gustav showed of aggregating data into the H3, and you can also re-upload data back into the platform using the Python SDK. We also have an R SDK for those who are more comfortable using R. Has pretty much all of the same features as the Python SDK, with the exception that because it's still in beta, it doesn't actually have the ability yet to upload data back to the platform, but that's something that we would add as people get interested. And then the most relevant one for the seems to be today is how do I connect Ocean Data Platform to my GIS software? So we have a page here, and we can drop that into the chat. It's quite easy. You just need to get the API endpoint, the base URL here, and then we have some sort of visual instructions of how to connect this with QGIS, and you can also generate an API token especially if you have data that you've saved on the platform that you want to be able to also access in the GIS, in your GIS tooling, then you need to create an API token, and there's a link here to that to do that. Quite easy. You then put it in with QGIS. There are a few steps that you have to take, and hopefully this is straightforward. And if it's not, let us know. And then you can get away and start working with pulling data directly from ODP. We also have a coming soon for how to do the same with ArcGIS Pro, but we wanted to start with QGIS because we know a lot of people use QGIS, and it's a free open source tool. Open source, I'm not sure, but it's certainly a free tool, and it's a really good one and useful one, very powerful in the GIS community. So that's just wanted to share that. I will share a link to that in the chat for anyone who's interested.
I see we have Tim leaving, so thank you, Tim, for the introductions today and for bringing us together. I think it's time to just open the floor for questions. And I see we have also Ed joining us from Esli Aqua. Was part of the Y Symphony project, or is part of it. That we worked a lot together in the past. Nice to see you, Ed. I don't see any questions in the chat yet. Is there anyone who like to comment or have any questions on what you've seen so far? Maybe since I see you on the call, Ed.
He volunteered himself just before you called on him, Gustav.
Okay. Is there a question?
Hello, can you hear me?
Hi. We can hear you.
Yeah, thanks very much for all the information. It looks great. Looks really good. I mean, I am interested in the R side of things, as you probably know. A bit biased there. So I'm wondering if you have any plans or thoughts of developing, for example, like an R package.
That's what we have, Ed, already. So it is an R package that is it was just released. So it does half of what the Python SDK does at the moment. But it means you can already start reading data, and you can do those aggregations that we did. And then we're adding the final piece next. So that is the ability to write back to the platform. But
So I can install that on my computer.
You can. So in the documentation, you can already do that, and there's a GitHub with some example code for R as well.
Yeah, I think that's really cool, and because I imagine there's a lot of people working in R that are maybe not so comfortable with like APIs and interacting, you know, in the sort of a raw way. But if there's a really easy to use R package and it's just like fetch this data set, it's super useful and repeatable, especially if there's some kind of like good versioning. It's like always just pull the latest mangrove data set, you know, and then that code like lives forever then, instead of referencing some sort of random data set online. Yeah.
And yes, I mean the thoughts behind our catalog too is that we built it first with sort of flagships data set that we know are useful, and there will be more added. But we also want to make available more local data sets. And for that, of course, the users are really important, or specific projects. So that's what we showed on the last demo. You know, we brought in, for example, Mayot's coral map into the catalog together. And there will always be lots of data that is not on the platform, I'm sure of it. But then we have this, you know, sometimes it's fine because the data sits somewhere really efficient. You know, maybe we will make some real integration with, for example, Copernicus, marine services, and this kind of data. We're looking into that as well. But the idea is that, you know, if data is already very efficiently sitting somewhere, perhaps we don't bring it in if it's very large, or perhaps we do if it's very convenient to have it on the platform. And then we will grow that over time. But we're trying to have a good starting point on the catalog. And then for the kind of projects, for example, we keep talking about, or I keep talking about Y Symphony, but it's a place where we brought a lot of data together. You can do that in those kind of projects, and you can push some of it to the platform, but you can also manage that more sensitive data between the members of a project. And then you can also publish outcomes if you want to on the platform. We are getting support for DYs coming up next year, the digital object identifiers. So we keep making more features available, of course, for the metadata and things like that. But it's already a system that is fully functioning and ready to put to work. Okay. Do we have any more questions, comments? Is there anyone who that are involved in the MSP that can voice problems where a technology like this could help, and maybe if you see some limitations as well to using sort of cloud-based technologies? And of course, we are very open to receiving emails from you and keep the conversation going after. I know when we worked with the Wire Symphony, Ed, we did make, for example, some ways to share data in the cloud, and I know there was a bit of a hesitancy to do that because, yeah, people might want to have the data on their local drives and things like that. So that's something we've seen before in the region. But I just want to highlight that the data that you do publish on your own data space is only for yourself and for those you decide to share data with. The data sits on European servers in Azure currently. It's something we could look into also having, for example, servers elsewhere if that's important for certain aspects, but they sit on European servers now. Okay, if there's actually no questions, and then I think we could even wrap up this webinar. I wanted to show maybe one last thing actually before we close, and it's an example how we use those hexagons on our own sort of. It's a demo project to get sensitive area data available for industry as well. So here we've used those aggregations to create hexagons globally. And a nice thing so this is just an example of a similar project that we just did together. The presence of coral reefs in this case, and we also made a gap map where corals could occur, but there was no map on them. So we made a simple predictive model to say it's shallow enough that corals could occur. There's no map, and we could look at the sources here. What's the source for that information? But a nice thing with having vectors instead of a raster is that you can actually click on each and every hexagon, and you can see the source of the data in that hexagon. So who said that there was a coral reef in this hexagon, and then you can actually have a really nice kind of lineage to should you trust that data for your MSP. And then you can of course do that then for many data sets, and you can start doing analysis and overlaying them. This kind of tiling, again, that's what Tom showed. We're having some native support to build this into apps. So this specific view is something we built on a separate service, but it's then it can be powered by the platform. Okay. I think with that, thank you for all the input you've given and the responses. I see that the main things you thought was interesting was both the ODP, quite a lot of interest in your My Data section as well, and a bit of interest in also sharing your own data. That's interesting. And I see we also have interest in the good documentation and examples, and there is some interest in training courses and deepening webinars. So we will reach out to you who signed up here today, and we can have a conversation about how we best support you in 2026. So looking forward to that. And I think we can maybe close the call. Any last comments, Tom?
I'll just say thank you again for everyone joining. It's really nice to see such a high turnout, and hope you took something away that's useful. Ed, especially on the R package side, as Gustav said, it's something that we've only just started. So if you wanted to have a play around with it, or if you wanted to have a short call just to sort of give your thoughts and reflections, we'd be very happy to have that, just to help us build it in a good way. Because indeed, I think one of the things that we're trying to do is make sure that it's like as easy as possible to get the latest data. So an example with the protected seas that we mentioned, it's updated data source, so you always get like the latest version of it. So making sure that like then on the actual consumption side that works really, really well. Be really open to hear your feedback on it. So yeah, and that goes to everybody, of course, just because you volunteered with your hand up. So I say that, but thanks again, everyone.
Yeah, and a closing word for me, I just like to say that a lot of people here are from country agencies, and I want to say that the platform is not there to replace any sort of national infrastructure you have. The idea is to build and be, you know, an additional way that you can explore and work and collaborate on data. But yeah, those are the kind of questions we'd love to hear from you about. If you bring us your problems, we're very happy to engage with you on a one-to-one or so on. So please reach out to us and we can keep the conversation going. Okay, thank you for today. Great to see everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Everyone. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thank you.